Good morning, everybody. Bill Wang here, along with my partner, Oliver EK, part of Ikigai Essentials. Apologies for the delay here, with the upcoming holidays, kids. We've been a little busy, but that kind of brings us to our topic of discussion today. We're going to talk a little bit, just go over a lot of things about the emotional and physical tolls of the family vacation, especially around the holidays. As I look at my calendar right now, it's already November 15th, middle of November. Thanksgiving's in 2 weeks. Christmas is in about 6 weeks. New Year's is coming up very soon. The year's almost over. And I don't know about you guys, but for me, there's been a lot of stress and anxiety around the holidays. One of the things that I've been really trying to plan here is, my kids have a week off for Thanksgiving break. I don't want to be stuck at home. If they're at home, they're going to be on iPad all day. They're going to be, complaining, nagging about certain things. I want to take them out and some fun. But there's a lot of stress and anxiety around that, just trying to plan. I spend some time kind of looking at airfare, thinking about going to the Bay Area, looking at airfare, hotel costs, transportation costs with inflation, everything going on right now in this economy, in this world. It's pretty expensive. I don't know about you, but for me, it's my anxiety level starts spiking when I start seeing that. I don't know if you feel the same way, Oliver, but with the family of, we have 4 people in our family, 2 young kids. It's not cheap just to get on an airplane to go somewhere. It's times 4 now for everything, pretty much.
I totally hear you. I'm going through something similar. So I have a sister who lives in Hawaii. So we were looking into maybe trying to visit them for the holiday. But yeah, it's just like it's a tough pill to swallow. Like if it's just one person, that's kind of one thing. But you're paying for 5 people. You kind of have to, and then you know that the holidays are coming. You know that it's expensive, like the holidays, like you buying gifts for people and all that. Um, there's a lot of expenses you got to be ready to pay. So yeah, I don't know. I guess if you're like really good at planning, then it's possible. But there's also a lot of pressure from like your peers. Like
Absolutely.
yeah, like one of the people I work with, like she's very good about planning ahead. She plans ahead like a year or like a half a year, like 6 months to a year in advance for these vacations she takes. And, they're always like really, really nice vacations, like going to Europe and that kind of thing. But, they also they're, more well off than I am, I would say. So, but it's kind of, you kind of fall into this trap where you see people who kind of seemingly are kind of on a even kind of level with you and doing all these
Hmm.
incredible things. And it just makes you feel bad. Like, that kind of makes you feel that you should be doing more or you can do more. And um, so, yeah, it's a very, very stressful time for sure for
Yep.
me.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but like I was thinking about it and talking to my cousin about this recently is kids these days, this generation, they're a lot different than when we were kids, if that makes sense. Like I hear from my daughter who's in 5th grade talking about so and so, one of her classmates is going to Europe and they're staying at this 5-star hotel. I'm thinking to myself, when I was a kid, I never heard that. Maybe it's because, I wasn't around that group of friends or whatnot, but I feel like it's a little bit different now. People are just not necessarily showing off, but put into situations where, it seems like it's a lot better than what their peers are in per se.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think some of it's like social media influenced where,
Absolutely.
I mean, what you see on social media, I mean, I don't, it's a weird thing. Like you kind of like fall into like this weird trap where you're like looking at social media. Like it starts like, and we'll back up a second. But I saw something. We never use Facebook, but I actually looked at it the other day and came across kind of some really kind of heartbreaking news. But since I logged into like Facebook that one time and I found out this kind of vital piece of information, I found myself kind of checking it more and more, and went from not using social media at all to like kind of like checking it all the time without like being aware that's what was happening. And then once you're like looking at Facebook, then it like opens. It's like a gateway drug
Yeah.
almost to Instagram, and then Instagram it's all about showing off. So now, like, so what you see on Instagram is like not real. It's not reality, but it's easy to kind of get sucked into that. Like, oh man, this person living a great life, eating amazing food, going to incredible places. And I think there's a pressure to kind of recreate that in real life. So yeah, I see it at my with my at my school too, and people going on these vacations. Yeah, they're always like just inside conversations saying they just got back from London or Paris or whatever. But you don't know like the details of what that means. Like they could have put all that on a credit card, and now they're a $5,000 bill on the credit card or whatever.
Yeah,
It doesn't necessarily mean that they can afford what they just did. So I think it's hard to do, but it's really important to kind of separate fact and fiction, and kind of nothing is probably as it seems like on the surface.
totally agree. I kind of fell down that rat hole as well. Is I got to a point where I had to just delete Instagram from my phone because I was just browsing that nonsense. I had to log off of Facebook on my browser and just not touch it because I spent, 10, 20, 30 minutes looking at nonsense. It's just wasting my time. But I think that's the hard part is us as adults, hopefully we can filter what's real and what's not. But kids these days, they see something and it's just like, wow, why can't I live that life? Why can't we go to London or Bali or some extravagant place? It's funny because not funny. It was kind of sad. My daughter says something like, her classmate wants to be likes Kim Kardashian. I'm like, why? And she said her classmate, kind of off topic, but she said her classmate wants to have a big butt. I'm thinking to myself, like a fifth grader already absorbing that information. If they're absorbing that, they're believing all the other stuff on social media. And I think that's kind of the root problem is they see that online somewhere and think, why can't they have it? Um, and that's been really stressing me out. It's just challenging trying to navigate through that in life and explain to the kids. Obviously, as parents, which, we want the best for our kids. We want to take them to the best places and give them the best experiences. I certainly want to do that because I never had that as a kid. I want to give everything to my kids, but it's just frustrating and challenging because there's expenses, bills, everything that's increased in cost right now.
Yeah, and I think there's a pressure to like to almost like spend as much money as possible
Sure.
for like the full experience. But then when you kind of look back, like when we were kids, and kind of because you never know what you're gonna remember, like when you're an adult, right? But it's never really about like material things. Like I don't remember
True.
we had like a Nintendo. I don't remember getting it. I remember having it, but I don't remember, like actually the act of like receiving anything unless it was attached to like an emotion. But like probably my the memories that I hold most dear would be going somewhere with my family, like as a kid. So I
Yeah.
think we went to Yellowstone one year. I don't remember I feel like I was really young when that happened. I don't remember like the details, but I remember going. And then I also remember we went to Banff in Canada one year, and we went to like this hot spring. I remember that kind of vividly, but it's like, but nothing else kind of around that. I just remember that experience of like going somewhere with my family or going on a road trip or things like that. So, it's easy to kind of get carried away with feeling that you need to spend a lot of money. And I think, with kids, yeah, you're right. Like they see kind of, obviously you compare with your peers and what's happening around you. And
Sure.
a road trip is not as glamorous as going on a cruise or something like that.
Sure.
But like the core memory is going to be similar, right? So yeah, it's kind of hard to kind of be brave enough to kind of live within your means and still like kind of know that you're going to create like really good memories for your kids,
Yep.
but you're not going to be, you're going to be going somewhere local in California instead of going to Europe or Asia or somewhere like that. But the memory, I think, for them will be similar, if not exactly the same.
Yeah, you nailed it there, Oliver. Like that's another thing that's been kind of causing my anxiety levels to spike is I'm thinking like as a kid, similar experience as you, Oliver, is I didn't get a lot of presents. I don't remember receiving a lot of nice gifts and all those things, but I remember all the fond moments I had with family and friends. And from what I understand, that's what the holidays are about is spending time with family, spending time with friends, getting together. I'm not saying, not a lot of people use fireplaces anymore, but sitting in front of a fireplace, watching a movie, Home Alone or whatever classic movies out there on the holidays, and just laughing, having fun, playing board games. Those are the memories I remember and cherish with my parents, my sister, and my cousins growing up. um, I really want to give those to my kids. And that's one thing that I've been thinking about is how do I recreate that? But then I run into this dilemma where since we're all spread out across this large country in the US here, it's hard to get up to Spokane. It's hard to get up to Seattle. It's hard to get up to down to Dallas, Texas, where I have some family down there. And it's expensive too. So it's just really, it's just been stressful and frustrating trying to figure that out and balance it. I've been trying to explain to my daughter, who's in fifth grade, a little bit older, and she understands things a lot better. But she still kind of has this thing in her mind, like, okay, well, why can't we do what this person's doing? Why can't we go where that person's going? Not like she wants to, not necessarily compare anything, but that's kind of what she sees and hears every day while being at school with her classmates. Nothing wrong with it. That's just the way society is right now. But trying to instill that in the kids is family time, friends, close friends, spending it is important, especially around the holidays.
Yeah, and then as you get older, like things priorities kind of change as well, just because you know your your parents get older, the people you grew up with get older, and you know that life is finite. So we know that everyone only has a certain amount of time, on Earth. So I think that for me, there's a lot of pressure about the familiar versus like a new experience. Like I could go somewhere I could take the kids somewhere we've never been before, but that would come at the cost of maybe seeing my mom and them seeing their grandmother because it's hard to do both. So I think there's a lot of kind of pressure and uncertainty about how to how to spend that time because you want to give your kids new experiences, but you also know that my mother, my father, they don't have all the time in the world at this point. So is it better to spend as much time with them as possible,
Yep.
or or is there like a happy medium somewhere? So that's kind of what I kind of struggle with right now.
Yeah, that's a good point, because um, I'm definitely experiencing that too as we speak. It's just, as I mentioned earlier, my dad passed away a few months ago, about half a year ago. My mom's getting older, slowing down quite a bit. I want to try to spend as much time with her. I want the kids to try to spend as much time with her. But it's just a struggle trying to satisfy both of those needs. Yeah, we could fly to Seattle easily. We could spend time with grandma, but the kids been there so much. They want to try other places. I want to try other places too. So it's just trying to figure that out. It's just challenging. But I think the good thing, knowing that everybody is going through this, I guess it's not just me. It happens as we get older and see our parents get older in life.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if there's like really an answer. I mean, I feel like you just gotta, I don't know, like do what you feel is right. So and then sometimes you gotta make a choice and just go with it. Like so I try. I mean, and then with I think we're in a really think it's okay to kind of live with some grace, like give yourself some forgiveness. I think we just went through like a worldwide pandemic that it's kind of a not I mean once a generation kind of thing. I want to say so that kind of upended everything really, and kind of the way people engage with others and with the world. So I think if so, like we were pretty active. I would say pre-pandemic, we would do a lot of activities and go to a lot of different places, and then all of a sudden you can't go anywhere. And then for a year and a half, however long that was, and then it's like, okay, you can continue with the life you had before, but it's not quite that simple, right? Especially for kids that
Sure.
even now, my daughter still wears a mask once in a while. I think they just got kind of used to certain things, and Zoom is like a it's a very common way of communicating now, where that really wasn't a thing before. So I think a little bit of grace is okay. I mean I would love to be able to take my kids like on a new kind of experience every weekend. That's what we used to do, but I know that's I know it's okay if that doesn't happen. Even though I always feel guilty anytime there's free time or on the weekend that I'm not doing something for them. There's always guilt that comes with that.
Same here.
Um, so that's always tricky for me to kind of forgive myself or like be okay with that.
Yeah.
So, and it's like saying things and then actually believing them or giving advice and taking your own advice, very different things. But that's something I'm working on. But I think, that's something that we can try to be more forgiving if things don't quite work out the way we would like them to.
Right. No, that's a good point, Oliver. Is like now that I'm thinking back in my childhood, you're probably in the same boat as well. Um, I remember there's times where I wanted to go places where my parents couldn't afford and other people were able to. But now as I'm older, I think back, I have no regrets really. It's I cherish all those moments that I had and remember them. And I think that's a good reminder for myself and hopefully for others as well is kids are like that. Even though they may complain and be like, "Oh, I don't want to go here. We've already been there. This is boring. Why can't we go to another place?" Blah blah blah. Right? But as they get older, I'm sure they'll realize and remember and cherish those moments, just like I have. So I think that's a good reminder too. Is just like you said, have some grace. Don't have that guilt and shame. I guess you can say everybody's human. It's just you can do the best you can, and your kids and loved ones will appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I think, yeah, I think you're right. I think effort,
Yeah,
so like one of the memories like I have of my like the most distinct memory I have of like my dad. I mean, he's still alive and kicking, but of my dad is like he would always like I used to play basketball. He would come to every game, like no matter what, and he was always like watching every game, no matter what. So that's something that I distinctly remember, and I think that's a lot about effort. Um,
absolutely.
he didn't. There's a language barrier, and in general, I mean, yeah, growing up, I didn't really understand him that well as a person, but as you become a father and you grow up, you kind of understand things a little bit better. But I think just seeing like the effort that he put, like now, like if my kids don't play sports, but if they were going to watch like every game, I could see kind of the time and effort that it would take to do that now. So I think yeah, just like the effort. Like I I don't know what we were thinking, but like I took my kids. Cause again, I was just like trying to do something different like every weekend. So I took them. So there's an airport nearby, Santa Monica Airport. It's not I don't know, it's not like a real airport. It's like more for like private planes
Mm-hmm.
and people to learn how to fly and things like that. So I took them there once just to like look at planes, and they hated it. Like they did not have fun at all, but they remember it. They're like every time I bring it up, it's like, oh, remember we went to Santa Monica Airport? They're like, oh my god, that was awful. But that's a memory, and that they can look back, even though it's
Absolutely.
not a good memory. Having bad memories is a good memory because you can look back and like laugh at it, but like, oh my god, I can't believe we did that. So
Absolutely.
I think just like putting in the effort, even if like things don't work out. I think if you put in the effort uh, with kids, they won't appreciate it at the time, but eventually they will.
Totally agree. I think that's why, as I mentioned earlier, is for me growing up, I always thought holidays were just spending time with their family. Like every year we watch Elf and Home Alone, Christmas Carol, all these movies. And you look at the core of those movies, all the families together. They're by the fireplace. They're enjoying a nice meal. They're having some laughs. They're telling jokes. They're just spending time with each other, especially if everybody's busy and throughout the rest of the year. But in the holidays, that's kind of the key thing for me, is just instilling that. And I think for me, it's not really an answer, but one thing that helps with a lot of the anxiety levels that I've been experiencing is just remind myself that you put in a great way, Oliver, is the effort that you put in. It may not be the best idea. It may not be the funnest place that you go to, whatnot, but the effort really matters. And now that I think of it, I hear back, like, there's several times where my daughter would tell me, I say my daughter's because she's older. She'd tell me, like, hey, thanks for taking us to place X last November or whatever, right? I'm thinking, like, oh, wait, it wasn't even that much. It wasn't even, that far or expensive or anything, but she appreciates those things. And I think that kind of helps me, refresh myself and get through these holidays and these stressful times that we're all dealing with.
Yeah. Yeah, it's it's a tricky time right now. Everything's expensive, but yeah, I mean, we'd love to hear from you as well. So if you want to like leave comment, I mean, we don't really have an answer here. We're just kind of talking about like what we're going through and what we're seeing, and maybe the takeaways from what we experienced growing up and what we see with our families now. But yeah, we'd love to hear from the listeners as well about maybe what you're planning, or maybe do you have tips on planning for vacations or weekends or things like that, being creative with like your budget, or whatever that might be. So yeah, we'd love to hear from listeners as well, like what you're doing for vacation or for in your downtime, in your weekends.
Yep. And I think we talked about this earlier, is with Ikigai Essentials, we're just looking for like a holistic view of how to improve our lives, I guess you can say, right? We don't have answers to everything, but just kind of talking it out, hearing feedback, going back and forth, it kind of helps me, honestly. And I hope it helps others as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the time of year where there's a lot of like seasonal depression right now, like going into winter. So a little off what we're talking about today, but when there's like talk about like, just trigger warning, I'm gonna mention suicide right now, but when people talk about suicide, I've noticed that a lot of the talk is about, if you're feeling depressed, about like reaching out to someone for help and like speaking up, which I understand. I think that's valid. But I also think that we as individuals and as human beings, I think we can also reach out to people as well. So if you see someone who's down, or maybe they, like with the holidays, maybe they lost like a loved one, like they lost a father or a mother, or maybe the holidays are a really difficult time for them, I think it's really important that we reach out to people as well. I don't know if it's realistic to put the onus only on people that are going through depression to speak up and seek help. I think that's important. But I think having experienced these thoughts myself, it means a lot when someone reaches out to you, asks you how you're doing, or
Definitely.
does something kind for you unsolicited. So I think like going into the holidays and the colder months, when there's more isolation, sometimes I think it's important to kind of just remember it doesn't cost a dime to be kind to other people.
Absolutely. And I'm starting to become a big believer of karma, right? It's a full circle. You treat others that way, you're going to get it right back, right? So I think it's definitely worth the effort. The holidays is a great time to start because, like I said earlier, it's about family and close friends and just, being with your loved ones. But don't let that stop you from reaching out to them throughout the rest of the year as well, because you never know what they're going through. And just make it a start right now as we approach the holiday seasons coming up.
Yeah. What I've been doing recently is I just text people. Like before, I would like kind of second guess, like, oh, should I send that or should I just do it? Like I don't even think about it, and that's helped. Like I've talked to people that I haven't talked to in a long time. Just like, oh, if I think of something, if I see something, and I'm like, oh, this person would be interested in this, or if I see like something interesting, I would see like I would just think like who might be interested in this, and even if I hadn't talked to them in a really long time,
Sure.
it's a great way to like reconnect with people. And once you start second guessing it, you probably won't do it. So that's helped me quite a bit. Is just like just doing it, like not even thinking about it.
Yeah. That's true. I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen, right? They don't respond or they ignore you, right? I mean, it's just, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't cost a dime to do that. And I'm pretty sure you were quite surprised on some of those responses, right? And that probably lifted your spirits a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well,
For sure.
we'll close this out. But yeah, if you in the comments, if you we'd love to hear what people are doing and how they're kind of dealing with this time of year. If you leave a comment, we'd love to hear it.
Likewise, totally agree. And, happy holidays. We'll be back very soon with a new episode very shortly.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.